Howdy, guys, and welcome to Survivor Season 41's recap of Episode 10. And welcome to Cliff Notes from a long way away from that island, which I'm kind of happy because it means I get to eat a whole lot of Thanksgiving turkey instead of just a little bit of rice. Happy Thanksgiving to all of y'all as well. Let's get right into it because it is another action-packed episode of Survivor. They've been squeezing a whole lot of stuff into each one of these episodes. I love it. I'm loving this season so far. So, first of all, as a recap from last week, remember, we had two tribal councils. We lost two people. We lost Nasir and Evie, and I hated to see both of them gone. Fun players to watch play the game, but we've lost them. We're down to only 8 people left on that island. It's getting a whole lot of people have been evicted. Not many left very quickly. So 8 people left. We had last week, again, 2 separate tribes. Now, this week, are they going to stay as separate tribes, or are they going to come together as one final group? Well, we discover they come together as one final tribe, which I like so much better. If you had a tribal council of only 4 people, it just doesn't seem to work. Too much people at risk. I want to see the tribe together. Anyone's at risk. Anyone can work with anyone else. So we are definitely at the end game at this point, and I'm enjoying every bit of it. So the tribes are together. The tribe is together. We're now down to 8 people. Who's at risk the most as we go into this episode? From my own personal viewpoint, I'm kind of thinking Xander is really at risk. He has so many powers. He is a man without his alliance, which sometimes being a lone wolf makes you seem like less of a threat than if you've got a lot of alliance members, which we'll see a little of that taking place this evening. But still, with so many powers and no one else to really support him, you got to think Xander's at risk tonight, right? Yeah, we're going to find out. All right, so as the episode begins, we're seeing the impact of these tribal councils and only 8 folks left. People are having to work with each other. They're trying to figure out who really is the risk at this point. You're getting to the point, and maybe kind of the theme of this evening to some degree is, do you get out someone that just no one is going to really be offended if you get rid of? Do you play it safe? Or is it time to make some big moves and go after the big targets? So we see some conversations taking place with that. We see Ricard and Shan telling everyone that Shan used her extra vote to get Nasir out. Because the question come up, how did y'all get rid of Nasir with his idol and all of that? So Ricard and Shan say, yeah, she used her extra vote, voted Heather and Ricard. Is it a good deal to tell everyone that? Now, I think everyone's probably grateful that Ricard and Shan did that. You always want to get at someone that's got an idol, right? For the most part, yes. So they're probably not too upset that Nasir's gone, but for Shan and Ricard to talk about how they kind of orchestrated that movement, it just seems like it puts a little bit of a target on their back. I may have been tempted if I was one of them to say, yeah, I don't know. We were feeling desperate. We thought that it could be us, so we did what we absolutely had to do. I would have absolutely downplayed it a little bit more than it seems like they did. But now everyone knows how it went down with Nasir. I gotta say, if you're Shan or if you are Xander and you're holding an idol, watching Nasir go home with an idol in his pocket, it's gotta make you think, if you're at risk, that maybe you don't want to do the same thing, right? Yeah, maybe not. But again, Shan and Ricard have told everyone. And sure enough, after that conversation, we see Erica talking about Shan, saying, look, Shan still has an idol. She's a big threat. She's a bit of a power broker. Now, remember, a few episodes back, we saw Erica, and I think it was Xander, sitting on the beach, and Shan and Deshawn and Danny and Liana, they pretty much made it clear that they were an alliance working together. They acted like Erica and Xander weren't even there. So Erica has seen that Shan has an idol. She also sees that they are a somewhat tight alliance. They really haven't seemed to try to hide it so much, which is a little dangerous. So Erica is saying that she really thinks Shan is a big threat because of it. And she's talking to Deshawn and suggesting to him, saying, look, there's 2 people on this island that have idols that are protected, and I really think we need to get one of them out. And Deshawn saying, well, who would that be? And Erica jumps right in. Says, I think Shan would probably be my top choice. Now, normally, considering that Shan is in alliance with Deshawn, that seems like Erica's kind of sticking her neck out there, right? To make that mention, not really understanding for certain where loyalties may be. Forget alliances. Where are the actual loyalties this season? But I guess Erica knows enough about some of this dispute, the arguing between Deshawn and Shan, that she feels like she can trust Deshawn, and so Deshawn jumps right in and says, "Yeah, I think I'm fine getting rid of Shan as well. Let's do it." Now, he tells Erica that. Is that truly what he has in mind? We're only going to find out a little bit later. But with these conversations going on, of course, Shan is noticing. Shan is a great player. She observes everything. She watches everything. Shan has noticed this, and she knows that she's not on the best of terms with Deshawn. So she's a little nervous about these little back conversations that are taking place that don't involve her. She asked Deshawn about it. And he's saying, yeah, we talked about, Erica kind of talked about getting rid of Xander and all that, but we didn't talk about you. We didn't talk about you at all. And Deshawn didn't do a good job of playing off that it didn't involve Shan, in my opinion. I think Shan may have realized that there's more to the conversation than Deshawn's letting on. But they're both talking and saying, look, the question is this season, should our top priority be winning the game, or should it be winning for the culture? And we know, just like Big Brother 23, there's some pressures to win, as they say in this episode, win for the culture as opposed to playing your own personal game. And so they're torn, and I can understand. I can sympathize with what they're going through. It's got to be tough in their situation. So they're both talking about that. Deshawn in particular is saying how much he wants to win this game, but he also wants to do what he thinks is best for who he is and everything else. So it's a tough decision. And now we're on to the reward challenge. And we've seen this one before. All the castaways are starting off in the water. They've got a rope tied to them. They have to swim towards shore. Once they get to shore, the rope is wrapped around all kinds of obstacles, which means you got to be quite flexible to move your way around these obstacles, follow the rope. Eventually, you get to the end, untie the rope, solve a puzzle, and whoever solves it wins the reward, which in this case, pretty big reward because the winner gets pizza. They get to spend the night away from camp. They've got a shelter that's going to put them under a roof. They've got blankets. They've got pillows. Oh, and did I say they got pizza? Which is pretty important food-wise this particular competition or this particular season. But we also know that whenever you have something like this, you're not going alone. You're also going to be taking some number of people with you, which gives you, if you win, the capability to make all kinds of strategic decisions, control just a lot that's happening in the game. So an important reward challenge. And again, did I say pizza? So they start the competition. Everyone's in the water. Right off the bat, Liana and Xander have taken an early lead, making it to shore. I'm not really sure what happened to Xander. He got hung up in the ropes somehow. Not hard to do, but he got hung up somewhere at that point and really got behind very quickly. But eventually, as we get past the rope part of the competition, it's Ricard who's taking the lead. Ricard finishes up the obstacle part first, gets to the puzzle. It's making a star out of a lot of different pieces. Looked like a pretty complicated puzzle. But Ricard seems like he does pretty well with it, pretty fast. He ends up winning the competition. Congratulations to Ricard. Now, he's won a few competitions. At what point does that start making you look like more of a competition beast, a little bit more of a threat because of it? He's got to be careful, but you play to win, right? So as Ricard has won this competition, and sure enough, Jeff Probst says, now you got some decisions to make, Ricard. Pick someone to go with you. So Ricard doesn't seem like he takes too long before he picks Shan. Now, I thought about it. On the one hand, everyone knows that Shan and Ricard are partners, have been working closely together. So by him taking Shan, that only solidifies the relationship between the two of those, which perhaps would make me a little bit nervous. But on the other hand, Shan does have an idol. There's been some friction between them. So I understand why Ricard wants to grab Shan and do everything he can to make her feel comfortable and feel like a partner with the two of them. So he grabs Shan. I think that's a great idea. Jeff says, pick someone else. The next person he picks, kind of out of the dark shot. He takes Heather. Heather, who really hadn't won a lot of competition, she hasn't had a lot of power so far. So, which is completely different from Shan, who's had all kinds of power. She's been involved in all the decision making. But here's the thing: taking Heather is a bit of a wild card. I think you don't know which direction she's going to go. She's not that she's easily manipulated. It's just she's been a little bit more bottom of the pecking order, and so she's willing to do whatever it takes. She's willing to work with whoever she needs to survive. So I think it was smart for Ricard to grab this wild card in the form of Heather, drag her along as well. But Jeff tells us, says, hey, no, how about one more Ricard as well? So Ricard, with, as it turns out, his final selection, ends up taking Xander. Now, the information he gives is, and with Heather, he said, Shan and Heather, both of them, he said, I'm taking them because they haven't won any competition rewards yet. They haven't got the chance to go off and enjoy a reward, which is true, but there were strategic reasons for it. With Xander, he says, look, Xander sacrificed his ability to win stuff last week when he didn't compete in the competition in order for us to get Rice. He's done a lot for us as a tribe, so therefore I'm going to take Xander. Great idea, good explanation for it. But the other thing, Xander also, like Shan, holds an idol. He also holds a vote advantage still that Shan gave up last week. So Xander's got a lot of advantages, an idol, and Xander's also a strong competitor. So I certainly see how Ricard wants to try to pull Xander in, be as tight as possible with him. And he does not want Xander back at camp working with the people who did not get picked for this challenge and potentially conspiring against Ricard. So he's trying to take some of those people and drag them with him. So yeah, I thought it was fairly strategic decisions. I understand. I think the reasoning for every one of the selections Ricard made, and hey, I kind of support it. So we've got that going on. They're off doing their challenge, and we see a little confessional from Danny. And Danny's talking about the fact that Ricard has yet again won a competition, has rewarded some people with pizza and such. Now remember last week as well, Ricard, he talked about Xander sacrificing so they could get Rice and such. Ricard sacrificed as well to give everyone Rice. So Danny's talking about the fact that, look, Ricard is a good player. He just seems like he's making too many friends at this point in time. Ricard's putting a target on his back, but you do what you got to do. So with those four away for the night, we see Danny starting to talk to, taking some time to talk to Deshawn and saying, look, man, the Ricard, he's doing too well. We got to take Ricard out of it. We can't wait for Ricard to make it to the end because he's going to win this whole thing. Now, remember, we had seen a bunch of discussions with Shan and Liana and Deshawn and Danny and Ricard. The five of them seemed like they could have been some type of an alliance, but Danny's saying Ricard is too strong. We got to get this guy out right now while we still have the chance. And Deshawn seems to be on board with it. And here's the other thing. It's not just that Ricard is becoming a strong and liked player, which is funny. They talk about how everyone seems to like Ricard in there, and yet social media and everything, people are portraying him as a villain. I like the way he's playing, but it seems like the public perception is a little different than what we saw on the tribes themselves during the season itself. But not only does Danny want Ricard taken out just because he feels like he's a threat, but the other thing is he knows that Shan has a bit of a dual alliance. She's got we'll call him we'll call him the camp out alliance. She's got Danny and Deshawn and Liana on one side, but she's also been tight with Ricard from the start. And so they recognize if they get rid of Ricard, Shan has nowhere to go except for the other three members of that alliance. So it strengthens their alliance while also getting out a big threat. So they're ready to get Ricard out the door and want to do whatever it takes to do that. So now they're trying to convince Liana. And Liana says she's good with it, but she looks hesitant at the time. And she does mention that doing this is going to help her game stand out, that if she feels like maybe she's just a follower at this point in time, she really hasn't done too much. I remember she tried to use that big move of taking Xander's idol. It didn't work. Beyond that, she feels like she's just kind of following along with Shan and the guys a little bit. So she's thinking that if she kind of turns on Shan, betrays Ricard, sends him out the door, it'll give her a bit of a resume enhancement if she makes it to final two. So she seems like she's on board with it as well at first. But the next day, we see Liana talking to Shan and saying, "Look, if are we still good? You and me and Danny and Deshawn?" And Shan says, "Yeah, I think so, but I just don't trust Deshawn. For now, maybe we're good, but I just don't trust Deshawn." And at that point, Liana says, "Oh, I can't do it to you. It may be a boneheaded decision from a gameplay standpoint, but Shan, I got to tell you, they're going after Ricard. They're not telling you because they know you're tight. They want Ricard out, and I'm just not going to do it to you, Shan." So Liana has spilled the beans to Shan. Dangerous. Again, information is golden in the game of Survivor and Big Brother. But she has spilled the beans that Deshawn and Danny both want to blindside Ricard. And so with that in mind, Liana is kind of switched sides. She and Shan are now talking about maybe taking out Deshawn instead, flipping the game around, getting him out before that. They tried to work together, but it just doesn't seem. Shan and Deshawn have never been. There's always been a little friction, and so they're gonna get them before they get got by them, something like that. But it goes beyond that because Liana has told Shan, and of course Shan's turned around and told Ricard. And is saying, look, the plan is for me and you, Ricard, Liana, Xander. We're all going to vote out Deshawn instead. That's who we're going to go for, which makes sense. But Ricard, he just doesn't. He looks at Shan like maybe he's getting played a little bit, like he's not 100% on board. And I get it. You don't know who you can trust at this point in the game. We've seen several blindsides. Ricard's mind obviously is the type that is always thinking about alternative stories that you could be telling, back plans and hidden conspiring and all that. So certainly he's thinking the same thing when Shan approaches him about getting Deshawn out. So he's a little bit nervous about it. He says, look, just let me think about it for a little bit. So there you go. So now we've got two sides. It sounds like Ricard may be going out the door, or going off the island, or maybe Deshawn heading off the island. But we haven't even played the immunity challenge yet. And so with that being said, let's talk about the immunity challenge. This week, one immunity only. Unlike last week where we had two immunity winners, two people went home. This week, it's one winner, one protection, one person goes home at the end of the evening, at least as far as we know, right? This competition is a great one. We've seen similar before on this one as well. The iconic competitions this week. Each player starts off standing on a beam, kind of a 4-inch beam or so, while they're holding a disc on a rod with a ball resting on top. And they got to stay focused on that, keep that ball on the disc. Last man standing, last woman standing wins the competition. But every 10 minutes or so, you have to step down where the 4-inch becomes 3-inch, then 2-inch, then 1-inch, and then not that at all. And you have to scoot your hand further and further down on the rod, which makes it tougher to keep the balance on that disc. So they start playing the game. Liana is out early. She very quickly into the competition. Soon after, she's followed by Danny. And then we got Erica, Heather, Shan. Deshawn eventually goes out. Down to two people, Xander and Ricard. Well, we already know there's talk about getting Ricard out. So this is a huge must win from Ricard's standpoint. From Xander's standpoint, we haven't really heard his name mentioned that much. Erica had mentioned that she'd like to get either Xander or Ricard out. But other than that, we haven't heard a lot of mention. But if Xander wins immunity, it means he doesn't have to play as immunity idol either. So important for both of them. They're balancing for a while. It's all about the focus in this game. Eventually, Ricard wins. Talking about a great week so far. Ricard has won the reward challenge. Now he's won immunity. He is safe. He's turning into a comp beast, and he is completely messing up the plans that Deshawn and Danny had, which brings up a little point. All the plans, all the conspiring, everything that your grand plans of what you want to do, I get it. And it's fine. You've got to include other people. You've got to talk about it in the game of Survivor. But why do you do all of that before the immunity competition? That's like being in Big Brother, making too many plans before you have the veto competition, before you know who's safe. who's actually on the block, things like that. So sure enough, all these grand plans are out the window because Ricard has won immunity. So everyone has to shift plans. And now there's names that have been thrown out and you've burned bridges and everything else. That's why I think it's more important that you wait until after the immunity challenge. But it didn't happen this week, and let's see what happens. So Ricard has won immunity. So now what are Deshawn and Danny going to do? What are they planning? Now it does mean from Shan's standpoint, I think Shan probably likes this, because from Shan's standpoint, she doesn't have to consider now whether to use her immunity idol on Ricard to protect him. If he hadn't won immunity, she knew he was a target. Would she have used it on him? I don't know. I kind of think not, but we'll never know. We don't have to worry about it at this point in time because he won immunity. So maybe a little bit easier for her in terms of decisions and leadership and all that. Kind of, maybe not so much. So we do see Shan coming up with a plan, knowing inside that they were shooting for a card, but she's trying to figure out what can be done. And she suggests, look, let's just get out Erica. And Erica doesn't really have a whole lot of supporters. She's got Heather, but that's about it. Erica's an easy choice to get out the door. We're not going to rock the boat. No one's going to get too upset with us if we get out Erica. It's simple. We'll get her out, and then we'll play the game of Survivor starting next week. And so she says, look, me and Liana, Deshawn, Danny, Ricard, we'll all vote for Erica. That's five. That's 5 votes is all it takes. We'll send Erica out the door. We know she doesn't have any immunity idol. Xander's not going to play out on Erica. So let's just send Eric out. Seems like a simple plan, right? Yeah, easy. No, we've had so many really tension-filled tribal councils. For this week, we'll send Eric out. No worries. And it never works quite that right. But she does say, we're going to do that. And she is worried. She says, look, let me go something else. She talking about that. She says, look, not only are we going to tell Erica, or we're going to get out Erica, but let's not tell Xander that that's a plan. Let's be completely mum. Let's not say a word to him about what's going on. Make him nervous enough that Xander will also play his idol, flush his idol. So get Xander's idol out of the way, which gives Shan the only idol in the game. We'll get Erica or Xander's idol out of the way, and we'll send Erica home, and we'll get Xander's idol out of the way. Took me a while to get there. So simple plan. Simple plans don't always work. And sure enough, that's right. Because as simple as it sounds, Ricard realizes that in this group of 5 people, he's on the bottom. No matter how tight he feels like maybe he is with Shan, and there's been friction there, he knows that he's probably the last man out when it comes to Deshawn and Danny and Liana and Shan and who they'd vote out. So he's decided that, look, I got to play the game hard. I didn't come here just to kind of finish somewhere in the middle. So he says, it's time. She'll understand. It's time to vote out Shan. Mind blown. Congratulations, Ricard, for playing a cutthroat, ruthless game, doing what you feel like you got to do. His tightest partner game, he's ready to cut her loose because he's got to break up this big alliance. So he's ready to get her out the door, which is very interesting. Now, I got to say, I understand why he's doing it, but I was a little bit surprised that he didn't try and send out Deshawn or Danny first. That he didn't try to talk to Shan and maybe say, hey, Eric could be easy, but hey, Deshawn really has been talking bad about you. Maybe we need to cut him loose first, since he's the one that was behind the plan to get me out. Shan would have understand why he was going after Deshawn. She's certainly not a huge fan either. She may have balked. She may have said, I don't want to mess with that alliance and everything, but at least I would have expected Ricard to maybe make that suggestion. And maybe he didn't. It just didn't make the edit. But he is getting rid of his tightest partner. So it's kind of, I see it going both ways. So now we've got that in place. And so Ricard has decided Shan has to go home. So he's now talking to Xander, Erica, Heather about this plan and saying, look, there's 4 of us. We only need 1 more vote, and I can get that final vote. Let's send Deshawn home. Let's send Shan home instead. And it seems solid enough. But here's the thing. If you're Xander, are you believing Ricard? We saw one of the earlier tribal councils, Ricard begging Xander, use your idol. As it turns out, he didn't need to. He's just trying to flesh it out. We saw Nasir go home last week with an idol in his pocket. If I'm Xander, I don't care how much Ricard's promising he's voting with the rest of you to send Shan out. I wouldn't believe him for a second. I would be very tempted to use my idol anyway, but at least he's on board theoretically to send Shan out the door. Xander's certainly fine with that. It's just a matter of how much can he trust Ricard. But that's the plan in place at this point in time now. Is some people think Erica's going home, as in Liana and Shan and Deshawn and Danny and everyone else thinks that maybe Shan's going out the door. So these we've got these four. No matter what, it sounds like they're going to vote for Shan, and we'll just see if Ricard can find the fifth place voter. And to get that fifth voter, he approaches Deshawn and says, "Look, just so you know, Shan told me everything, Deshawn. You think that you're tight with Shan and Liana and all them, but they told me everything. I know you were plotting against me. I know you wanted to send me home until I won immunity. Yeah, they're snitching on you, Deshawn." And Deshawn immediately denies it, says, they're lying. They made that up. I never said a word against you, Ricard, which I think Ricard probably knows it and true. But as Deshawn says later, yeah, I was just lying to him. But it doesn't matter because Shan told him everything. Obviously, I know I can't trust her at this point in time. So remember earlier, it was this big conflict. Do I work to win one for the culture, or do I play my own personal game? Well, at this point, Deshawn said, forget that. She showed me she broke the code. I think Danny's the one said, hey, you broke the code. That's it. You got to go at this point. So it's make it much easier for Deshawn to make his decision up, and Deshawn's on board to send Shan out the door as well. Not looking so good for Shan, is it? Considering this could have been a week where her tightest partner won so much, you would think she would have been pretty good this week. But maybe not so much now. Now, with all that in mind, that's not where all the planning ends, because Erica realizes that she's still in a little bit of a bind. Everyone's planning on her side to vote out Shan, who has an idol. Everyone on the other side is planning to vote out Erica. And Erica has realized that if Shan gets wind of this, if Shan does play her idol, that suddenly Erica is in a prime position to get sent home herself. So she wants to play it up just a little bit more. So she's going to try to convince Danny to work with them as well, and protect her a little bit. And she mentions the fact that she and Danny were on Team Luvu together, so maybe she can use that to her advantage. Well, remember, Danny and Deshawn were ready to throw immunity competitions just to get Erica thrown out. So yeah, they were on the same tribe, but they were never tight together. But Erica still thinks that she can talk to Danny, and she does just that. And she says, look, Shan is, you gotta be careful. Shan spilled all the beans on you. We got to get her out the door. And now Danny's on board as well. And Erica has at this point figured out that, look, let's have 3 people vote for Liana, 3 people vote for Shan. That way, if Shan plays her idol, Liana goes home, which from Erica's standpoint, all right with that. If Shan doesn't play her idol, it's a tie vote. They then go to a revote. One of those 2 goes home. Either way, Erica is safe. So she feels like she's got everything protected. We do see Danny and Deshawn at one point say, are Heather and Erica just playing us, making these suggestions, trying to get us on board and everything else? And you got to be careful with the cast this season. Such fantastic players. I'd be a little bit nervous as well. But at least that's the plan going into Tribal Council. The problem is, Erica, when she comes up with this plan, is talking to Danny. Danny sees her starting to take charge. And again, remember, there was friction while you're on Team Luvu. He is again worried that Erica's too strong in coming up with this plan. She's too sneaky, that maybe he needs to stick with the original plan and send Erica out after all. So that's where we're at as we go on to Tribal Question itself. And we get some conversation between Ricard saying it's who you can trust for how long. Shan saying we're all liars, but it comes down to who do you trust more amongst all the liars. Danny's comment, he says, look, I thought this was the most important comment of the whole Tribal Council. Danny says, people may think they know who's working together, but they might be wrong. I really think he was sending a message to Xander and Heather and Erica and all them that, just because I'm with Liana and Shan doesn't mean that I'm necessarily working with them. I feel like it was a little coded message, but lots of interesting conversations. I wish we could see a a 2-hour long version of these tribal councils, because I know it goes for so much longer than we actually see. If they had just hidden scenes or some version of live feeds for Survivor, I'd love to see an extended tribal council and see just who's saying what, who's implying what, who's trying to lead other people on. It'd be great extra content if you're watching CBS and you ever think about it. But with all that being said, we see some conversations, but for once, for the first time in a few weeks, we don't see people getting up last minute, doing a little whispering back and forth. Everyone's kind of got their plans in place, good or bad. It's time for a vote. No idols are played. And yet again, no one plays a scroll for a Hail Mary save at the last minute. I don't think they're going to get used at this point in time. I just think having that one vote that you own, as opposed to giving up that vote for a 1 in 12 chance, it's not a good trade-off. I think it's Erica that says at one point, whether you're on the top or the bottom, we all have one vote, and that one, except for Xander, who has 2 votes. But other than that, we all have one vote. We all can control a whole lot with that one vote. And because of that, I don't think we're going to see the scrolls used at all this season. So maybe you need to reevaluate that going forward, Survivor. But we come down to the vote itself. And as the votes come out, we see 3 votes for Erica, 3 votes for Liana. The plan has worked. Heather and Erica and Ricard. Ricard was the ringleader on this thing. It has worked. There's going to be a revote. It's going to be either Liana and Shan. Shan sees the writing on the wall. She knows what's happening. And sure enough, it looks a unanimous vote when they do the revote. Shan is headed out the door. Shan, a great player. I feel like she took a little too much leadership once or twice. It may have been a little better just to back off just a little bit and let other people at least think they were leading the way. She certainly wasn't the least bit unwilling to jump in and offer up comments, suggestions, and plans. And a fantastic player, but she created a little bit bigger target on her back because of that. And now she's paying the price. Shan goes home. Shan goes home for the 2nd week in a row. Someone goes home with an idol in their pocket, and Shan's done just that. Ricard's position, it's interesting. Ricard has he's helped flush an idol out, which everyone's going to be happy with. But Ricard lost his tightest person at this point. So now, where does Ricard go? Does Ricard now go with Danny and Deshawn and Liana, or more likely, I think, goes over to Xander and Erica and Heather? And it's going to be a great next week. I'm so excited about it. But Shan goes home, an amazing player. I'm going to say this. Of everyone that's been evicted so far, I kind of think Shan, of all the people that may come back for an all-star season or returnee, Shan's getting my vote. She's probably getting my first vote of a person that I think deserves to come back for a return season. She just played a great game, and I'd love to see her come back again and see how she played just a little bit different, fine-tune little things here or there. But yeah, I hated to lose Shan. She was great TV, and she was great strategy as well. But Shan has gone home. But she doesn't go home without getting at least one last little dig in, because she tells Ricard, says, Ricard, you got my vote for $1 million. And Deshawn, you're a snake. All right, well, she and Deshawn just didn't work well together from the start. But telling Ricard she's got a vote for him for $1 million, I don't think that does Ricard any favors whatsoever. If I'm anyone else that's still sitting there around tribal council, I'm looking at Ricard and thinking, all right, that's one more strike against you in terms of why I don't want to go to tribal council with you, my friend. One more reason why I do have to get you out quicker than anyone else. So I don't know if Shan did that intentionally just to kind of get a little dig in at Ricard because he turned on her, or truly she was trying to applaud him for being the strategic player that he was. I'm not sure which it was, but it didn't help Ricard at all. So there you have it, guys. Another exciting episode of Survivor, and I can't wait for another week and to see what the repercussions are of this particular tribal council, because we got a lot of stuff in upheaval. Don't know what's going to happen to the Camp Out Alliance now, because Liana was not very happy to see the way the votes fell. She's got to feel like she's a little bit of an island. We saw some of the previews. She's not real happy with Deshawn and Danny. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to mend fences or not. They better be able to, because I have a feeling suddenly they may be the minority numbers in terms of votes and such. But the way this season's gone, who knows? All right, guys, y'all have a great rest of the week. I will be back next week to talk about episode 11. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.